for the vaccine. Do I take the vaccine? What does the vaccine mean? Is it safe? So I really just wanted to weigh in a little bit on some of the questions and concerns that may not have been addressed. So as you are tuning in, I would love for you all to just put your questions out there regarding the current state of COVID-19, particularly as it relates to this impending vaccine. There are a couple of companies out right now that are in the front running to release their vaccine, one of which is Pfizer. And because of the Operation Warp Speed, we've had the opportunity to get vaccines expedited and make it available to the public more quickly because we are in a pandemic. This is a crisis. So a lot of people want to know, well, is it safe? Is there a compromise to safety and efficacy because the vaccine is being released so soon? And one thing they have to be clear is that with Operation Warp Speed, it is the intent that the safety and efficacy is maintained with the vaccine, that is not compromised, that is not anything that is being rushed. There's still something that is being studied in these clinical trials with the principal investigator. There's federal oversight, so that portion is not rushed. With Operation Warp Speed, what it is doing is allowing the companies that are trying to develop the vaccine to expedite the process of getting the word out about the vaccine, the manufacturing of the vaccine, being able to make sure that the marketing, advertising can be done in a synchronous fashion, whereas in the past, and I've been a principal investigator on clinical trials as well, you have to do the trial, and once the trial is done, then you engage in the marketing, the production, etc. And so they're allowing all these things to happen concurrently. So it doesn't suggest that there are steps being overlooked in terms of safety and efficacy. It's just a lot of the logistics of getting the vaccine, getting the word out about the vaccine, the advertising, and those sorts of things are going to be expedited so that there isn't like this huge delay. Now, one of the questions that people want to know beyond the safety profile is, what if I've contracted COVID? Do I still need to get the vaccine? Will it be effective? What does that mean? And so there's not enough information out there yet in terms of whether or not someone that has been infected by COVID, what we call natural immunity, still needs to take the vaccine. And so until we get more information, the CDC and many of the federal guidelines are suggesting that it's helpful for most people in the population, especially susceptible individuals, as it relates to their susceptibility to COVID. Another question that came up was, if I'm vaccinated, will I still have to wear a mask? So currently the CDC is still recommending that, once the vaccine becomes available, we're not quite sure how long we are going to need to wear the mask, but in the meantime, we'll still wear a mask until we get more information. But the bottom line is, whenever vaccines are out, it's supposed to be safe and effective, and that is not going to be something that's compromised. Now, I want you guys to weigh in with your questions regarding the COVID-19 vaccine, because it's coming, and so we've got to have these conversations now on how do I prepare. Do I get the vaccine? Do I not get the vaccine? Who needs to get it? What if I don't want to get the vaccine? And all those things are still being worked through, but we want to make it clear that the benefits far outweigh the risks involved. And with everything we do in medicine, there can be inherent risks, and this vaccine is no different. But with every clinical trial, with every new drug, there has to be a safety profile, an efficacy profile, and you have to prove that the benefits outweigh the risk. Now, Sean Jenkins of the Jenkins Law Firm, thank you for that question. He's asking, should it be mandatory? I do not agree that it should be mandatory. I think everyone should have a right to the integrity of their own body and their own body space. But I think what might be helpful is just patient education and public education regarding the vaccine. I don't want us to be in such a rush that individuals aren't allowed to receive information about the risks and the benefits of the vaccine. Is the vaccine a part of the virus? Some of that information is intellectual property, but typically what happens is with most vaccines, any vaccine, the viral component is inactive, and so the body is trying to develop artificial immunity versus the natural immunity. So the inactive portion of the virus will help jumpstart an individual's immunity to develop antibodies to that particular virus. So in terms of the vaccine itself, there does have to be a component of the virus, but it's not something that you will be subjected to contracting COVID virus because you're getting the COVID vaccine, because again, it's an inactive component. So I hope that answered your question, Craig Barksdale. Thank you for that. Any other questions about the COVID vaccine, safety, efficacy, who should take it, who shouldn't? A lot of the rules of engagement are still being worked out on the state and national level, but in the meantime, it's important that we help educate each other on the importance of making sure that we're all safe, and vaccination is a part of that. Someone asked, will there be enough vaccine for everyone, and how will we be able to manage the access? Well, hopefully, as the FDA authorizes and approves the vaccine, that they will scale it and make sure that there is an adequate supply to go out. Usually the most vulnerable populations of constituents will get the vaccine first, but the main thing is we're going to make sure that the vaccine is made readily available. Oftentimes they may even put up a special task force where there are facilities where patients can get the vaccine, whether it's in your clinic, your primary care, or community facilities. The Jenkins Law Firm has another question. Will doctors and nurses know what's in the vaccine to be able to educate their patients? Yes, absolutely. I think that's a critical part of it. Before any mass vaccination, there's always a mandatory education on the healthcare staff on not only how to administer it, but how to educate patients on it, and to educate our colleagues in the medical community regarding what's in it, how it's made, how to look out for adverse reactions, and how to treat those as those rare reactions arise. So that is a part of the protocol, standard operating procedure for any new drug, whether it's a vaccine or a new medication. So the goal is, the cornerstone of everything and what we do in medicine is safety, to maximize safety and efficacy while minimizing risk and harm. So that's super important. Hi, cousin. So Ty Jones has joined us, and so I would love to hear what Ty has to say in regards to the vaccine. And so again, it's a lot of conversation going on in the country, and I think it's important that we have these forums where we can just talk openly about it. Reverend Hill Shield 153 has a question. Once you're vaccinated, are you still at risk for the virus? Typically, when you are vaccinated, it should protect you from the virus. Of course, this is still very early on in terms of how long the immunity will last. Will you need to be revaccinated every year, or is this a one and done vaccine? So as information becomes available, of course, I'll share that with you all. We'll make sure that the word is out about how often you'll need to get vaccinated. And typically you are not you're at the lowest risk when you are vaccinated. After vaccination. Craig Barksdale is asking, are there side effects? There have been some reports of minor side effects, and that is the case with any medication that we take. There's a potential of fever, there's the potential of site irritation, but in terms of a major adverse event, that has not been a prominent feature of the vaccine. Whenever that does happen during a clinical trial, the clinical trial is halted so that more information can be garnered about what caused the reaction, and oftentimes there's adjustment to the vaccine based on that reaction, because again, the goal is safety and efficacy while minimizing risk. Do we know how long immunity lasts when you have antibodies? We're still more information that needs to come out in terms of how long the immunity will be with the vaccine. So we're just waiting to get more information on that. Another question is, will the vaccine cover the second wave? So in regards to the second wave, use of the vaccine will cover the second wave. The second wave is more so related to an increase in the number of new cases, not necessarily because the virus is more virulent or more dangerous. It's just the density of individuals in closed-in spaces when it starts to get cold. It's very difficult for people oftentimes to properly social distance when we're in our fall and winter months, because oftentimes we're enclosed in tight spaces. Getting warm, it's difficult for people to make sure they're practicing these appropriate measures, and so that's why oftentimes you will get that second wave. And so the wave again is not because the virus has become more virulent. Do viruses have the tendency to mutate? Yes, but the majority of the virus components, the vaccine is geared towards making sure that you're protected against that. And so in regards to the second wave, I hope this answers your question. It is, you'll still be protected against that second wave. The second wave is more so for volume of people, incidents, number of new cases, not necessarily a more dangerous version of COVID-19. Sean said I'm a COVID encyclopedia. You know, all of this, we're all learning as we go along. And in the healthcare space, it's been very challenging because we've had to keep ourselves abreast in this in real time. We can no longer take it like one day at a time. It's literally 1 minute at a time. And so we are adjusting on the clinical side of things to help educate our patients. So I'm encouraging any of my colleagues that are watching tonight to make sure you encourage your patients, you educate your patients, educate your community and your family members if you're watching, regarding the importance of the vaccine. And we're going to take it with a measured approach, of course. That's the main priority here. And so we want to make sure that's at the cornerstone of everything that we do. One of the things that we talked about in the ABC Ebony series is the conversation we've had recently amongst our medical and social communities, and that is just a general mistrust that a lot of populations have on the healthcare system, particularly with things like Henrietta Lacks, the Tuskegee experiment, and many unnamed experiments in prisons and in vulnerable populations. And so what bore out of that very shameful past is to make sure that the clinical trials are done with integrity, that those that are enrolled in the clinical trials are knowledgeable and can have informed consent, meaning they know why they're in the trial, they know what the trial involves, and then they also are able to be monitored, and everything is kept transparent. The record keeping is validated, and we make sure that it is shared, and oftentimes when it's reported, it's in a peer review journal so that our colleagues are taking a look and making sure that our results are reproducible, meaning you don't just get these amazing results in one lab and you can't reproduce that in another lab. So there are layers to making sure that the safety and efficacy profile is at the cornerstone of everything as it relates to the vaccine. So nonetheless, I'm hoping this was helpful. I'm hoping you guys will get a chance to tune in on YouTube and Facebook via Ebony or ABC Network on Being Black in America. But to also, regardless of our gender, our race, our socioeconomic background, this relates and is relevant to all of us. And so we have to keep everyone safe. And so if you have questions that didn't get addressed, I have a question that's coming in. Has government money truly helped increase PPP and more available beds? Yes, it certainly have. I've seen it as a frontline worker, as a breast surgeon. I've seen how we've had an increase in our equipment from the support, so we definitely appreciate that. There was a time very early on, I'm looking for just eye shields to go into surgery, and I can't find an eye shield. I'm having to bring in my own eye shields. But they make sure we had our N95 masks, the gowns, so we are well equipped with that. In terms of the beds, those are getting a little tight right now because we are going into the flu season. We're also going into, of course, this second wave of COVID. So we're having to be very conservative with the resources and making sure everyone stays safe and protected so that we will have enough available beds for the vulnerable population of people, not just patients that have COVID, because quite frankly, they are the minority of the new admissions, is those that have pre-existing medical conditions that oftentimes are needing those beds the most. And these are the people with, like my patients that have cancer, or patients that have diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, asthma, and or accomplish all those we call comorbidities. We have all the above, and also our elderly population. So we want to make sure that they stay safe. Thank you, Jesus is a carpenter and the hoop too, saying that I'm proud of you. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you for just tuning in. I hope if you have a question that I didn't address, it's so much to discuss regarding this COVID vaccine that we can't really cover in one little live session, but I could not help but just jump on live really quickly after that roundtable discussion to see if you all had any additional questions about it. And I'll jump in again later on, but send me a direct message, or you can just send your message in the comment, and I'll definitely try to get your questions answered. So again, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and until next time, we're going to go from our breast health to our best health. And thank you. You're so welcome, Patterson. But I appreciate you guys listening this afternoon. I know it's a lot you could be doing right now, but I'm really concerned, and I really want to make sure I do my part in educating those that want to know the information about the vaccine is possible. So send me your questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. And for the answers that I don't know, I'll make sure I research them and get those answers to you right away. But in the meantime, and in between time, let's try to treat it, beat it, move on, not just with breast cancer, but COVID-19.